following up what I just said. And if you didn't understand something earlier, you're not going to get it as I keep going. So please do not hesitate to interrupt me through the chat box in YouTube. That being said, please try to keep the comments and questions GIMP focused and new image manipulation program focused. Man, that's an unfortunate name. Okay, discarding changes. Discarding changes. All right, where were we? We're over here. Okay, paste as new layer. Paste as in new image. Brushes and patterns we're going to skip over for now. We're going to come back to it later. All right, clear. Same thing as hitting the delete button. Just wipes whatever active layer. So hang on, we're going to talk about active layers just for a second here, because this is the crux of how GIMP works, is layers. Layers upon layers upon layers. So if you create, I'm just going to right click and say N for new, and it wants me to give it a name. N for new, and give it a name. Okay, now I'm going to make a big fat paintbrush over here, and we're going to draw here in red. Oh, computer just had a little brain fart there. Okay, then we're going to turn that layer off. See this eyeball over here? You can make the layers visible and invisible. You can still interact with them in some cases, but not, let's see, red, green. Oh. We're going to go down to this layer here, and we're going to say big swoop-de-whoops. Okay, and then we're going to go down here, take a blue. We're going to go down to this one and make some zigzags. Now, when you stack them, you'll notice the order that they appear from top to bottom on this list over here is the order that they appear on in the picture. Okay? You can reorganize these. You can drag them and change the order in which they're listed, in which case the order in which they appear over on this is hierarchical ordering. That's exactly correct. Now, if you right click on this menu, on this table, list, I guess it's table, and say new layer group, okay, you can put things into a group. And then you can turn off that group all at once, right? You can move, hang on, the whole group all at once, okay? You can technically move other layers all at once without using groups. You can do that by linking the layers together. So linking is you use this chain icon over here. So just like you can make things visible and invisible, you can link them and unlink them. And if layers are linked, I think paths are also linked, but they're linked separately. You can't link the two at the same time. So now I'm going to move this, and you'll notice they all move together, right? I'm going to turn off the link to the green, and it's going to move the red and the blue together, right? I'm going to turn off just the one to the red and the blues just by itself, and only when something happens because it's not linked to anything. So linking and forming groups, right? Because you can make a new layer group here. You can put the red, green, and blue into this one, and then you can put another group on here. You can put the red onto its own, and then you can turn off the red but not the green and the blue. Like this, the ability to manipulate this stack is a very crucial skill into understanding how GIMP works. If you don't get it, please speak up in the near future, because I'd love to explain it further. Now, let's go back over here. We talked about layers. We're going to come back to this because there's so much over here on these panels. We have a lot to talk about. Linking global or just per group. Links are within a group. So if you put, hang on. That's a very good question, by the way. We're going to put two layers in here. We're going to link them, and we're going to link the red one. If I moved, yeah, they all move. So it must be global. I thought it was only within a group, but you're right. It is absolutely global. So if there's a link here, it makes sense. If you could link it within a group, there'd be another layer of links that you could use. I don't know if you did that intentionally, but thank you for the leading question. That was an excellent point to make. All right, let's turn these off for a sec. Okay. Clear. Okay. Oh, other things. There's two more. Some of you probably play. Yeah, just collapse layers. Exactly. Okay. One thing I wanted to point out is usually if you want to paintbrush something, right? You just hang on. New layer. We're gonna say. Actually, no. Let's put an outline around. No, we haven't done selection yet. Okay. So we're gonna do this. Right. This. If you want to do really fine layers, you have to get in there and control your mouse very carefully. But if you select something like this, right, you make a closed selection, And then you go into here, you'll see if there's a selection in play. You have an active selection, which means marching ants. You can go over here and say stroke selection. And what that means is that it's going to take, it's either going to, if you do this option here, it'll draw a line this wide with this style. So you can put a round cap on it. You can put corners, square corners. You can add dashes and dot patterns. This is great when you want to do dash lines. Or you can just switch back to a paintbrush. You can choose any of the other brush tools like your eraser, your pencil. You got cloning the smudge. You can do all these sorts of things. And when you say stroke, it generates, it strokes along that pathway as if you did it with your mouse. There's another thing we're going to talk about here coming up called a path. That's also very useful for this way. You use Bezier curves. If you're not familiar with those, you're going to be in a minute. Line dashing being ordered in a way that's reminiscent of binaries. But here's the other thing with that stroke selection here. We're going to make another one of these. Okay. Now, we're going to go into stroke selection here. Now, if you look at that line style, okay, there was an option, there you go, called custom, okay? You can modify the pattern however you see fit. And then when you go to stroke, well, hang on, let's make this a little bit wider. And you say stroke. When you look at that pattern now, see that's just kind of messy because it wasn't very big. Oh no, it was too big. Hang on, stroke selection. Oh, he didn't turn on anti-aliasing. There you go. Notice that it's a lot neater, not as much ragged edges. Yeah, Morse code. Bane of my existence. I had my amateur radio license for a little while, and then it didn't turn out because I needed to know Morse. All right, now, if you want to learn how to use GIMP, I suggest you pay attention to the next 5 minutes more than anything else, because we're going to talk about preferences. This is arguably the most important thing to understand. Once you get to know all the tools, it's just a matter of practice and trial and error. But this will define your experience with GIMP. So, number one, take your maximum undo. I'm going to reset all of these actually. So, set all my preferences to default values, okay? The default level of undo, so the number of steps you can go backwards, is 5. We're going to change that to 500. Being one-to-one notion makes me incomprehensible. Tree structures are the answer. Yeah, I think I've got this in advanced mode. No, there's no. This is it. But there are other options you can get to. Like keyboard shortcuts are also in this list. But there's a quick option to get there. Right? So, anyways. Okay. I recommend a very obscenely large number, depending on your RAM. If you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, I feel bad for you, son, but you should probably consider, I don't know, doing something to get more RAM, because RAM is the, if the CPU is the motor, the RAM is the fuel injectors, right? You can't, if you've got a weak CPU, it doesn't matter how much fuel you can deliver. If you've got a big-ass motor, it matters that you can deliver a lot of fuel at the same time. So there is such thing as having too much RAM and not enough RAM, and too much CPU and not enough CPU. Database tree structure spamming my beloved. Okay, so undo levels to 500. Now, undo memory. Remember, the undo does not remember pixels. It doesn't remember raw data. It remembers the steps that you've done. Right? If I go back here and I go, you actually got an undo log over here. Hang on. Add tab. Where's my undo log? Hang on. Undo history. Okay. So these are all the things I've done. Right? Move slowly. These are all just every click, every single individual command that I've done. Abstracted memory. Okay. So preferences. Big thing here. Oh, I didn't save anything, which is why that went back to 150. So we're going to make this 500. I would personally make it 5,000, but I don't think that's necessary. Okay, now, let's talk about swap. Swap is a thing that's in Linux, and it is in Windows. They just don't talk about it. Basically, if you're working with big, honking, high-resolution pictures, it gets you say you've got a 12-megapixel picture. Right? That's 4K, I think. It's a roughly 4K. when you create another layer in that image, that's a whole nother picture that has to be stored. Okay? You put another one in there, that's another layer that has to be stored. Right? We're going to talk about how to minimize storage issues later on if I can get there. But for now, just know that you walk into this knowing that unless you have stupid amounts of RAM, you're going to be using some swap. And swap just means GIMP says, okay, I haven't used this data in a while. We're going to put this on the hard drive in a special place that I can get to really, really quickly. Yes, exactly. So it makes space in memory by putting the stuff that doesn't have to be immediately accessed, sets it off to the side. That's your tile cache. Okay, now, if you have, say, 32 gigabytes of RAM, just ballpark in here, and you're not running 100 other programs at the same time, feel free to put 25-50% of your RAM dedicated into tile cache. Because once the tile cache is exceeded, that's when it goes back to the hard drive. Right? As long as you're working within the tile cache, it'll keep the stuff it needs to, and you'll get blinding fast results. When your tile cache runs out, that's when it starts to slow down. Unless you're using an NVMe drive. If you're using an NVMe drive, which is one of the fastest forms of SSD, if not the fastest, if you're using an NVMe drive, it's already fast just to get the data off the hard drive. It's when you're using a platter drive that this really becomes a problem. The maximum new image size, if you try to start an image that's obscenely large, it's like, hey, why? And you just say, okay, and it's like, okay, it'll do it. I like to say best performance. Swap compression is like, okay, it's putting this file onto the hard drive. Do we want to compress it? So if you're limited hard drive space, yes, you would compress things. But when you compress things, you want to get them back, you have to decompress them, which is even more time. I have 24 threads on this processor. So I'm defaulting to 16 threads right now. I know in Windows you can right click and assign priority of what's it called? Real time. Don't do that. Yes, it will get you more faster processor responses, marginally, but if GIMP crashes, then your computer crashes. It's not a good scene. Okay, moving on. I'll make our thumbnails a little bit bigger. That's fine. If you have more CPU than you need, it's probably worthwhile to use. Okay, I'll just leave that up to you guys. But the point is, if you have lots of RAM, aim for 25 to 50%, as long as you're not using 100 other programs at the same time. If you're using 6 instances of MATLAB to calculate the next number of pi, probably want to dial it back a bit. I would aim for 5 to 10 minimum percent of your RAM as tile cache. If it's a problem, dial it back, but start there. Okay, debugging, not going to talk about. Color management, we're not going to talk about. I would say relative colorimetric. This is, so if you make an image in a computer and you take it to a print shop, okay, the images that you're seeing on your screen are generated with pixels that are red, green, and blue. But when you take it to the print shop, your printer is going to emulate those images with cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Okay? And those are, it's called, you can get your computer to present those images, to the same colors to you, as if they were generated with CMYK. Yes, exactly. Printing is, when you print, you're using something called additive coloring. No, subtractive coloring. Yes. When you put ink on the paper, blue ink is not blue. It absorbs everything but blue. So blue reflects off it, nothing else does. Right? But on your screen, it's additive coloring because it's not preventing reflection. It's generating, not reflection, what's the word? Anyways, whatever. It's not blocking the light like ink does on paper. It's generating the light from pixels, okay? So, I would just say leave this to relative colorimetric. If you want to go perceptual, you can. I don't see much of a difference. I do like black point compensation. That's a bit different. If you have a monitor profile. So some people, if you've got like an IPS panel or, yes, the colors add together. If you have an expensive ass monitor, you can probably find a color profile online. If you're like me and you're really silly about certain things, like my mom has a bunch of, like, she's got probably 50 photo albums in the house around the place. And if something were to happen, her God forbid, who those pictures are of and where they were taken and when they were taken and whatnot would disappear forever. So I bought something called a spider checker. So I'm going to take a quick, yes, exactly. And this is something you guys might want if you're getting into really solid photo editing. A spider checker might not be an idea. So I'm going to actually just copy this and paste it in GIMP. That's a good idea, Rob. Copy image. Okay, hang on. We're going to come back to this in a second. So this is a spider checker. So you take a picture of this with the camera in the same lighting conditions that you would use for everything else. Oh, hang on. I closed my YouTube tab so I can't see chatting. You take a picture of this, and then you take a picture of all the stuff you want to take pictures of. And then before you process them in GIMP, or I think it's Darktable is what you have to use for this one, you put this picture in and it will calibrate the whites, the blacks, and all the colors because it knows exactly how this reference card is supposed to look. And so if it's a little bit off in the green spectrum or the red, depending on your lighting and the white balance and the contrast or whatever, this card can be used to correct for those imaging. But it still has to be rendered accurately in front of you, which is where the color profiles come in. So if you can find a monitor profile on here, more power to you. You can technically generate them, but you need a special kind of camera that lays against your screen. It's literally you dangle it over the top and it lays against the screen. You generate the color underneath the camera. It's really absurd. I don't see any application unless you're a professional photographer or digital artist or something where that's important to have. Okay, moving on. Okay. Again, if you're looking for like ultra precise color representation, floating point precision on your pixels is necessary. I don't think it's necessary. However, adding an alpha channel when importing an image to something that you're probably going to want an alpha channel means, hang on, let's just see here. If we go back to this one here, this image, and we go back to layers, okay? See the black and gray checkerboard? If I were to print this, it would come out on top of whatever's behind the image that I put it on. If I remove the alpha channel, right, there has to be something in the background, right? If it right now it's taking my background layer, so if I put this in the background, okay, and I take away this alpha channel, my background's white, right? If I try to cut something out, come on, there we go. Oh, I reset my keyboard shortcuts. That's what's going on. Okay. So if I cut something else out here. It does. Hang on. Did I give it back the alpha channel? Okay. If I cut something back here, it fills the cut space with whatever my background color is. Okay. So if you have an alpha channel on the layer and you cut it out, the alpha channel is, so your pixels are red, green, blue, RGB. Okay. If it has an alpha channel or RGBA, then the fourth digit is used to describe its transparency or opaqueness, depending on what angle you're looking at. In barotrauma, alpha is used all the time in lighting to represent the intensity of the light. When in reality, it's not actually intensity. They have a image that they use to represent how the light comes out of that object, and the alpha is used to determine how well that image is superimposed over everything else. I can show you that later if you remind me. I'm not going to remember that myself. Okay, so going back to the preferences here. Okay. Alpha channel, keep color profiles, default explorer. We'll just say okay. So I save these as I go. Going back here. Okay, tool options. If you're just getting started with GIMP, I recommend leaving this option unchecked because it's easy to draw on a layer that you just disabled without realizing that you just did that because it's disabled and you can't see what you've done. If once you're used to working around, you might want to do things to layers that you can't see right now. So I'm going to leave that where that is right now. Cubic is, so scaling is, if you take an image that's say 100 by 100 pixels and you stretch it out to 200 by 200 pixels, it has, now there's like 300 new pixels that weren't there. No, hang on. 100 by 100 is 10,000. 200 by 200. So there's 30,000 new pixels that weren't there before that it has to figure out how to fill in. Now, that brings me to our first little intermission of one of the programs that I find really important that I want to show you to. We're going to go Gaming Nerd. We're going to go into Barotrauma. Okay, and where's my images? Images, references. Okay, we're going to take something really small. Something, hang on, sort by size. That's 82. That's really not that big. Okay, hang on. Oh, shoot. Hang on. This one. Okay. We're going to take a really small image. We're going to say open with GIMP. There we go. Okay, I'm going to scale it with GIMP and I'm going to scale it with something else. We're going to see what happens, okay? So we're going to take this one here. We're going to, did that again. Okay, XV. So this image is only 496 by 316 pixels, right? Doesn't sound like, it's not very much. Just trust me when I say it's not very much. So if we say we scale this image by 496 to 1000, and look at this. If that link is solid, when you make changes to one field, right, we said 496, it'll maintain that ratio and adjust the other field as well. But if you unclick that and you say 1000, it doesnn't change the other one. So we go back to 496. We can check that again. We say 1000. Hang on. Before we do that, I want to save this as, export as, Gaming Nerd, Barotrauma. We'll just put this one in here. Test pistol. Test pistol.png. Okay, it says, okay, what do you want to do for compression? Okay, now we're gonna quadruple the, no, double the size, I guess. Hang on, where's my scaling? Okay, scale image. We're gonna change this to percent. We're gonna say 200%. Okay, now notice when you zoom in here on the hand grip and all this sort of thing, it's really pixelated. We're going to save this as text. Big but ugly. Is this, guys, are you finding this interesting? Is it not? Am I going through like really boring stuff, or I'm dropping viewers like flies here? Okay. Now I want to introduce you guys to one of my preferred forms of come on, AI called upscale. So it's spelled with a Y. We're gonna go back over here. We're gonna take that Gaming Nerd, Barotrauma, Test Pistol Small. We're gonna go down here. We're gonna choose the model. In this case, we're gonna say digital art. It's usually the best in most cases. We're not gonna double upscale it. We're just gonna take. Oh, wow, that's 4 times. Hang on. We're going to go down here, and we're going to say back to 2 times here. Okay. Doesn't want to be archived. Okay, hang on. First of all, you have to acknowledge the limitations of AI, right? So it doesn't really know. Okay, hang on. We're going to upscale this. Okay. Now, it's already saved this, so let's go back to GIMP. Okay, we're going to say open as layers. We're going to put that one in here that we just... okay, and it's already saved it with this big, long, ugly name. Okay, so this is the upscaled version. Notice how sharp some of these lines are, right? Especially when you zoom in here, and then we take a look at the other one that was just cubic interpolation, right? Oh, hang on, my headphones just... turn themselves off. That's fun. Hang on a sec, guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, you can finally talk. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, so you can see why I like upscale. However, like I said, it has limitations. It can't do words very well. But it does a pretty damn good job. If you just want to take something up a couple, like 2 or 3 or 4 times its original size and it's really pixelated to start, your other option was redrawing it by hand. So it's quite handy. I like it. Okay, moving on. Okay, we talked about these guys' preferences. We were over here in tool options. We went to cubic interpolation. Okay, paint options shared between tools. Turn these the hell off. Okay? What this does is when you... okay. When you look at a brush, for brushes, there's they're over here. You have the paintbrush, the pencil, the airbrush, the ink, and something else I'm not familiar with. Okay? If you have this option changed... Okay, and let's just say you're using the paintbrush, okay? And these are all used for different things. Let's just say we set this to 20. 20, rather 20. Okay. If once you make that change, if this option is checked and you switch to, hang on, we're going to switch over here. We're going to switch to airbrush, right? And then we change this to 100 because usually when I'm airbrushing stuff, I want a wider, softer brush. And then we switch back to paintbrush. It's still 100 because it retains all of the brush's share settings with that option, right? So I don't like that. Brushes and airbrushes are 2 different things. They should have 2 different groups of settings. Disable this. Dynamics, I wouldn't just... Dynamics allow you to change brush properties while you're drawing with it. So you can use the velocity. So if you, let's just say you want it so that you put down less ink when you move really quickly, and then it looks more like a paintbrush stroke because your paintbrush will thin out when you move it quickly across the canvas, right? This dynamics are really intended for people using what do they call it? Tablet inputs. So those big, for lack of a better term, placemats that you can draw on and it shows up in the computer. I've been jealous, but I've never really had no use for those. Okay, moving on. So I just turn these off as my longest... Okay. This one, set layer or path is active. Okay. When you... We're going to find out here in a second what this talks about. Let's just go over here to the move tool. Okay, it's up here. This is a layer, this is a selection, and this is a path. These are all 3 very different things. Okay, I'm going to do over here. So remember our marching ants? Okay. If I say M for move. Oh, M. Okay, here we go. And I have the layer picked. And this option says move the active layer. When I move left and right, it's going to move the layer. If I check the selection instead of the layer, when I move left and right, those marching ants move with the mouse, not the picture. And then pathing is something we're going to talk about in a sec. Pathing is a very important tool to know how to use, but not the most important. It's not the first priority. You should know how to use path soon enough, but it's not a critical thing to not know yet. Okay. Now, default image, 1920 by 1080 is HD. I think that's usually fine. 300 pixels per inch. I don't think the human eye can see beyond 450 very much unless you're like right up against your face. However, change this. When you start a new image, this is the settings that you would get. This is what we're defining right now. I would just leave all of these except for grayscale unless you're really big on grayscale. Leave this landscape, leave this 1920 by 1080, leave this built-in RGB, but change this to transparency because just saves your life so much. It just one little thing you don't have to do. Okay, now I've never played with these options. I don't think it's okay. This is for when you're drawing, I believe. The line styles that it's used to make grids on the screen here. We're not going to... Oh, no. We got to turn it on. Hang on. It's not even on. Come on. Okay. View, and we go show grid. Right. This is what the settings are for. Right? This grid allows you these settings here. I don't even use the grid, so that's why I wasn't really familiar with it. Preferences. Oh, that's the input options. Preferences. Okay, moving on. So if you want to change those, by all means, have at her. I don't use it, so have fun. Okay. Compact sliders. What are those? Hang on. Oh, okay, that's what's going on. All right, see these sliders here on the side, right? These bars that you grab. We're going to turn that. Currently not set to compact. We're going to go back to interface, and we're going to say, oh wait, they are set to compact. What's going on? Oh, sorry, that's these guys, the input fields that are sliders. That's a different story. Either way. Usually it's a good idea to keep your interface as compact as possible, unless you're having trouble navigating, in which case keep it nice and fat, in which case everything's easier to spot. Okay, previews. See these little boxes over here? You can change how big they get. You can say huge. Undo preview size, we'll leave that as huge. Navigation preview size is huge. Okay, and then we say, okay, we have to restart. Okay, it's fine. We're just going to preview size extra large. See, it changes the size of these preview tabs over here. So just go to large. That's fine. We don't need much more right now. I'm going to go back here and we're going to change these back to large because I don't think they need to be huge. Huge takes up a lot of space. You can only fit so many layers on the screen at one time. Okay. We're going to come back to keyboard shortcuts. Right now we're just going to skip to this. I prefer a dark theme. You can go light, or you can go system, or you can go gray, but I prefer the dark theme. It's just, it doesn't offend my retinas as much. Why do graphic drivers take forever to install? If you think about the math that a graphics card has to do to generate three-dimensionally properly ray traced, like shaders, vertices, faces, perspective, like all of these things, it's a lot of thinking that they have to do. So your computer has to be very deliberate. Yeah, they do a lot. That's why they take so long. Okay, icon theme. Again, this is a personal preference thing. I don't like the colored ones. I find them easier. I find the symbolic high contrast much easier to acknowledge, read. I don't like that one very much at all. I've never seen that one. Down here, you can change the size of wherever you want. Like you can make, but you know what? It's better. Let's just leave these icons nice and huge for now so that you guys can see what I'm doing a lot easier. Toolbox. Show active image. No, these don't matter. Menu mode, show hover. Okay, so yeah, okay. See these ones that have a little triangle on the bottom here? I wish we didn't have. Yeah, if you ungroup these tools, that's what they look like. We're going to leave them ungrouped for now. You can group them again later, but we're going to ungroup them for now. Okay, dialog defaults. You can go through. These are all the things, the pop-ups that happen relatively frequently. You can set the defaults in advance. Don't worry about that right now. You don't have to worry. You don't have to... Those aren't things you have to change when you're getting started. Okay. Monitor resolution. I'm using an Acer E320QR. Hang on. ED320QR. Okay, tech specs. Okay, yeah, so just put your monitor. This is actually kind of important because you got to make sure you get the proportions right. Accept all cookies for now. Okay, so we have tech specs. What's down here? Visa mount. It should say somewhere. I guess it's just hang on here. What was that? Units in that. Okay. PPI, points per inch. Okay. So, if my screen is 31.5 in the diagonal and its ratio 16.9. Okay, so hang on. Yeah, anyways, long story short, if you have like a really wide screen monitor, you need to make sure these numbers are accurate. If they're not, Your pictures are going to be either stretched or squashed or whatnot. This is a very important step, but only if you've got a jacked up monitor. Either really high or really low. Okay. Windows, marching in speed. Oh, I didn't know you could change the size of those. Let's make that 400 and see what happens. I just want to see. I've never really seen what happens. Oh. Oh. That's slower than snake shit. Alright, let's go back to this one here. 100. Okay. Oh, that's even better. I like that one. It's a helpful thing to know where those marching ants are, and I'm guessing it's okay, let's try 50 one more time. Okay. Oh, that's nifty. I like that one. I'm just gonna amuse myself here for a second, guys. Give me 1 second. Display. We're gonna say 20. Okay. Look at that go. Now that's slick. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, preferences. Moving on. Tiny things for tiny minds. The image window would automatically reself itself, zooming into and out of. No, I don't care. No, don't care. When spacebar is pressed, pan view. No, it doesn't matter. Show brush outline. That's important. Show pointer for paint tools. Pointer. Okay, so this is okay. This is very important. Okay, haha. You'll notice when right now this is a crosshairs, a little thing on the end of my mouse. Hang on here. Mouse and touchpad. I'm gonna make my mouse really friggin' huge here so that you guys can. Hang on. It might be accessibility. Give me a sec. I should have thought of this sooner. Accessibility. Cursor size. Big S. There we go. I don't know why I thought that would transfer into GIMP, but I thought it would. Oh well. Oh, look at that. It goes off to the side. Okay. So notice there's two things I want you to see with this. One is it's a crosshairs. It's an X with a hole in the middle, right? Wherever you're clicking is exactly where that... See the way it's transferring that edge? Right? Wherever you click is that... The target is the middle of that X. Or T or whatever. All right? And then the symbol to just down and to the right of it is the currently active tool. Right, if I switch to an ellipse over here, right? See that symbol changes to a circle. If I change to this one, fuzzy tool, changes into a lasso, or turn into the flip, it gives me the arrows. Not exactly 1-to-1 over here. That's similar. This one's going to be a bucket. There you go. Hang on. Can I... Okay. Bucket, pencils, erasers, that sort of thing. I'm losing viewers here, guys. Are you guys still with me? Am I being boring, or do you want me to move on, or what's going on? I'm hemorrhaging viewers here. No comment. Awesome. Moving on. Okay. Default appearance in normal mode. It's not boring. I don't think we... If it's not boring, I don't think... don't know what you mean there. If it's not boring, I don't think you would learn anything. Okay. If it wasn't boring. Okay, now I see what you're saying. Okay. So show... Okay. We're going to go through some keyboard shortcuts here in a second, but we're going to say leave show grid off. These are all the defaults here, so I would say leave all these off. Removing title and status. Okay, so notice the title up here is... current name of the file, formatting of the file, how many layers, and how big it is. That's all useful information. That star right there means it's a dirty picture. Dirty means it hasn't been saved yet. Once it's saved, it's clean and it goes away. Snapping. I have all my snapping things turned off, but these are all off by default anyways. Okay. And turn off input controllers. Okay. We're going to talk about brushes and plugins and scripts later, but this is where you find how to get to those. Like when you install a plugin, they've got to go in here. One of those four. In order. I think this one's the one that's best place to put it. Okay, but I want to go back now to those keyboard shortcuts because they are... Hang on, interface. Keyboard shortcuts. Okay. Because I do make some significant changes to my keyboard shortcuts and I find them to be very helpful. So I'm going to show you guys what I do. So first of all, I used to play a lot of Dota. So my left hand automatically goes to QWER. And I don't mean Dota 2, I mean Dota. Like the Ice Frog mod map for Warcraft 3. Now I'm dating myself, that was 99. But it's funny, if I sit down at a computer and I'm not really doing anything, my left hand will just gravitate towards QWER. So, I put the most common tools and selection and all that sort of thing. So let's go through here. Edit. Control X is still good. Now, Control V, Control Shift V. Now, this is another one. Control Alt V. Paste it into a new layer. Realize that my own volume was cranked. Dude, you were super quiet for me. Is that the same for everybody? Because I can turn myself up here. Hang on. I'm in the yellow bar. It says, like, you're not supposed to raise your mic higher than the red bar. And right now I'm maxing out the yellow bar. So I'm going to turn myself up a little bit. How's that? Is that better? So it only says there's like one concurrent viewer. I'm pretty sure there's more than that right now, but I'd like to keep at least half of you happy. How's the volume now, bro? Crickets. Okay, I'll wait for that response and move on at the same time. A little bit better, thanks. You're welcome. Okay, so... Fun fact, not many people know this, but you've got Control Z, which does your undo, right? Not everybody knows that Control Y is redo. So whatever you just undid, you can redo it. Or, in some cases, you can do Control Shift Z, which is the opposite of undo. But we're going to keep going on here. Select. Okay. Now, it was okay. So Control A... This is if you're going to take note of anything, these are the ones you're going to want to know, because selection is the most fundamental tool in GIMP. Okay, so selecting everything on a screen is Control A, right? So you say Control A, notice the marching ants go immediately to the border of the picture, right? If we're going, let's just say we're going to, hang on, there we go. Okay, I'm going to make this rectangle here around this thing, okay? And then I'm going to go to layer here. I'm going to say layer to crop to selection, okay? Notice that the yellow dots here, okay, are not along the outside edge of the picture, okay? The picture is bigger than this layer. If I hit Control A on this layer, it only goes as far as those yellow lines because that is the extent of this layer, okay? You can go to other layers, right, and see like these blue and green ones, and the yellow's back to the outside of the picture. But when you get to this, or get down to this one, the yellow comes back. It means this layer specifically is a smaller size. And you can right-click on that layer and say layer to image size, and it goes right back to that big size again. All right, now moving on. Oh, hang on. Keyboard shortcuts. Nope. Keyboard shortcuts. Edit. So, grow, which is, I make a little picture here, okay? We're going to grow it. Oh, man, look at that. That's so cool. I love the fast-moving marching ants. It's cool. Okay, anyways. If I hit W, this little menu pops up. It says grow selection. Let's just say 20 pixels. Right? That selected area just went out by 20 pixels in all directions. Right? So sometimes if you want to, let's just say I want to add a highlight behind this thing, right? Watch this. This is one of my favorite things to do when you're trying to put together an audio visual thing. So I made a duplicate entry of this layer, okay? I'm going to right click and say alpha to selection. So this is going to pick just the parts of it that have data in the pixels. The rest of it's blank, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say increase this by 10 pixels. Okay? And then I'm going to hit Control B, or Shift B, which gets me my bucket tool. We're going to change this to black. And I'm going to hold down Shift and paste and fill in that area behind the thing. Okay? Notice, if we turn this layer off, we just filled a big area with black, and it's slightly larger than this thing. So when you're trying to look at this, let's just say, hang on. The other thing I do is I go in here to filters. We're going to talk filters in a few minutes, not right away. And I go here and I add, now there's this nice black. Sometimes I'll even just move it down a little bit. Hang on. Move the layer. That looks like a drop shadow, right? And that just makes things stand out on top of other things. Very easy to do once you select the object, increase the size. See the way that's relevant to this conversation? See what I did there? Okay, now, keyboard shortcuts, moving on. Select, we've got the grow, which is W. We've got shrink, which is E, does the opposite. Invert is another one. Where's the invert selection? I don't have it. Yes, it is. Invert, Control I. Okay? So you'll notice, hang on, close this here. If we, take my fuzzy select tool, I'm going to select out here. Okay? The fuzzy select picks as much of the same color as it can. Okay? Notice it didn't get this in here because it doesn't bridge gaps, right? It just is one contiguous area that's all the same color, even if that color is no color as it is right now. Okay, but notice if I were to fill this up with, say, red, I'll go up here, I'll go back to Shift B, fill this up with red, right? The selected area is between the thing and the outside of the image, right? If I hit Control I to invert that image, two things happen. One, notice there's a little circle with an X through or a slash through it on my bucket tool while following my mouse around, right? And two, the dotted lines are no longer going around the edge of the image. That's because instead of picking everything but the thing in the middle, now it's got everything, including, oh, hang on, I'm on a different layer, including the thing in the middle. Right? Nothing else. That's because we inverted the selection. Okay? Similarly, if you want to, say, take this thing and we fill it with red, oh, hang on, we're going to go make a new layer here. Just want to make this point home because inverting selections is actually new layer, fill with transparency. Okay. Right, that's if we have it fill in the selection, Control I. This is the filling in the inverted selection. Somebody want to give me a thumbs up or something in chat if that's clear, because that's a very, 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 very commonly used thing, at least in my world. I don't know about other people like professionally trained in this shit, but all right, moving on. Wow, we're 1 hour in. I'm not nearly as far as I thought we'd be. You know what? Let's go. We'll skip the keyboard shortcuts for now, and I'm just going to go in through some of these tools. Okay. So, select all, Control A. No, I think there's somebody else here, because there's something else that says... Anyways, don't matter, Landy. I really appreciate you sticking around. If you want me to talk about something else, as the only one here, you have prerogative, but I would like to continue as I'm going now, if you don't mind. Okay. Control A is pick everything, right? Control A. And if you want to pick nothing, Control Shift A picks nothing, right? What's it, you mind in the negatives? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to draw this little scoopy thing here, okay? Enter to commit the selection. Control Shift A. Nothing. Nothing is selected. So when you say Control Shift A, when you're done pushing those buttons, there should be nothing selected unless something else is up. All right, select. And then we talked about inversion. I don't know what floating is, to be honest. Okay, so by color we talked about, that's this thing here, this guy. It looks like a finger, right? When I poke, where's my threshold here? Why is it picking that? Oh, it's because I'm on an invisible layer. Ha! Okay, that's an interesting point I want to make. So I've got the crosshair, I've got the picker tool. I should be able to pick this brown here, right? But it's not. It's not picking that brown. You know why? Look over here. I'm on an empty layer. So from its perspective, this is what I'm clicking on. Oh, whoops. No, it's on the other layer, right? There's nothing here, so it just picks everything, right? Remember, contiguous area. So now if we go over here, switch to this proper layer that I was going for in the first place, and you pick this, it picks all the same color. Regardless of whether it's contiguous or not, it does pick as much of the same color as it can in this image, right? Now, there's an important thing here. Now over here, you guys might not have noticed it because I've been talking a lot. Over here is the tool options. So you have 4 places. Well, you got more than that, but you've got a bunch of places that you can put these docks, okay? So I'm going to close this because this is not one that's relevant. Oh, we can close that. And I'm going to go over here and say lock. This one's already locked. So lock tab to dock, okay? Now, no matter what, if you don't do that, what you're going to find is you accidentally drag this out and then you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do with this? You just drag it back over here, right? You can technically, if you want, put it over here. You can put it off to the side over here. But usually the best place for it is just right here, in my opinion. You just get used to it. Okay, but there's 2 things here I wanted to show you. Number 1, gotta have select transparent areas, or you can't pick these open areas. Oh, pardon me. If you check sample merged, it's similar to copy visible. It selects everything. It selects from everything you can see. But most important are these 2 options here. So threshold determines how sticky it is about similar colors. So if I go here, you'll notice that it picks this brown, it picks this brown over here, it picks this one down here. Oh, it gets really picky. You turn that up, it starts getting less picky, right? You turn it way up over here, and look at that. You can pick the whole flipping thing, even though it's all different colors, right? How far? Yeah, we go down to 129, we start seeing holes, right? On the other side, if you want to get really, really, really specific, you can turn this down to like 2 or 3. Right, because look at this. I've got the color picker on right now, and it's not even picking this one over here because it's so stingy at 3. It goes over here, right? We take the... It's still being really picky. Hang on. Let me go up to here. What about that one? What about this one? Does that do... Notice when I click this one, it's getting the other ones around this edge too, right? It looks across the whole picture for it. And then the other one is select by composite. So 99.9% of the time, you're going to say select by composite. But sometimes you want to cut something out of a layer. So what I would do in that case... actually, no, that's a pretty advanced technique. We'll talk about that later. Anyways, so select by composite and select by alpha are the 2 that I use the most often. Holy crap, we just tripled our viewership. Welcome to the stream, folks. Alright, so that's selection. We got color, we got from path. We're going to work on selection editor. I showed you guys earlier. So the selection editor, you can actually directly influence what's selected through that one. So I'm going to say draw a big square on this layer. Okay? If I go over here to selection editor, this is the white is what I have selected. What's this? Paint along, stroke selection with the last used values. Okay, no, that's the stroke selection button. This is selection to path. Okay, we're going to talk about pathing here in a second, but hang on. Can I... Anyways, so if you're ever wondering what you do have selected, this little tab up here is how you do it. Now, I'll be honest, 99.9% of the time, I have that tab closed. But there's a list of tabs you can use. You can turn them on and off. You can break them out. You can tuck them away. You can put them wherever you want. It usually remembers where you put them. Layers, channels, paths. We're going to talk about all these in a few minutes. But for now, I want to finish this. Okay, so feather. Feathering. Okay. So, I'm going to fill this square with red. Oh, let's go into a layer that's up at the top, shall we? Go this one. I'm going to fill this layer with this red, okay? Now, that's a really, no matter how hard I zoom in, that's a pretty damn sharp corner, right? Now, what I can do is we can say select feather. Let's just say 20. Seems to be a good one. close this one over here. Feathered by 20 pixels. Now when I fill it, right, it's softer, right? It's got a much finer edge to it, but it gets softer in both directions, toward and away from the cursor, right? If I say select and I say feather, and let's just say 250, 250, right? It's going to be a lot softer, but notice that soft goes into the selected area as well, right? So if you want to just extend a soft beyond something, hang on, we're going to say, hang on. New. Okay, so I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to fill it with red. Oh, what's this? No Minecraft. Me. Okay. And then we're going to go to this other layer, and we're going to say feather 250. And now when you fill it up, you've still got that glowing, but it doesn't get out of there, right? If you want the glow to extend almost as far as the... if you don't want to be able to see that line, what you should probably do is probably extend it by 20, and then feather it by 20. I bet you it still is a problem. Oh no, hang on, we did that by 250. So hang on, we're going to say grow this by 125, which is half the distance. And then we say select feather by 250. And now when we fill it, you can't see that square, but it's bloody close. Right, but that's how if you don't want the selected area to be visible, that's how you hide it. Okay. Feather, sharpen. I don't really use sharpen. Can't really tell you a lot about it. Shrink. We talked about. Grow. We talked about. Border. Okay. Watch this. So we're gonna take another one of these little potato shapes here, and we're gonna say select border. Let's make it 25 wide. Okay. What it does is it extends that selection that you had inside and outside, right? So it creates a border around whatever you just had selected. Okay. We talked about border, remove holes. That does what it sounds like. If you have, hang on. F. Okay, let's just say we take a big area like this. I'm going to, oh yeah, we didn't talk about selection modes. Okay, hang on. This is another important one. Okay, so notice here it says mode. We're in free select, which means we can draw whatever we want to select, and it selects it. This one here is in replace a current selection. So if I just draw a circle down here, it replaces the selection that I already had, right? If I draw another one, you got to hit enter to commit these last two selections, okay? If I go to this one says add to the current selection. Notice it says shift. So if I hold shift, notice there's a little plus sign that just showed up beside the cursor. Right? Now I draw another circle with the thing, and boom, now there's two. Right? Or it got bigger. Now, of course, the opposite is subtract from the current selection. This one says control. So if I hold control, notice now there's a little minus sign beside the cursor, and I take a potato like this. It cuts that potato out of the existing area that I already had. This is a useful technique for later. And then, this is the opposite. This is the intersection with the current selection. So, if I think it's, yeah, I've got it selected. And you'll notice there's a U. It's a systems engineering symbol. Okay, I'm going to draw this weird kind of pattern between the two of these. And all that's left is the only part that was overlapping between the two areas. Alright, that's what these do. You're going to notice those in a lot of cases. So it's generally the best idea to leave it in the first position. Okay. If we, hang on, say you draw the circle here, okay, and we cut out some eyes or something, we just make some little wonky stuff, right, and we say edit or select, hang on, I don't know what fat finger I'm doing, but it's clearly a problem. Okay, remove holes. Any paths, selected areas that are fully enclosed by the main body will be filled in when you pick select holes. I don't know what quick mask is. I've seen it, but I'm not really sure how it works. Definitely looks like something I'm going to want to get into. Okay, now the last one I want to show you about were save to channel and save to path. So, channels allow you to operate on different color sets. So by default, if we go down here and we turn on add tab, and we say channels, by default you have a red, a green, a blue, and an alpha. Okay? If you turn one of those off, right, and we say, hang on, let's turn off red, okay? I turn on my eraser. It's shifty, I think it's shifty, control-y, whatever. Where's my eraser? There's my eraser, okay? I'm going to make it rather large, right? Oh, hang on, go down in here. What is this going on here? I thought we couldn't. You shouldn't be able to do that. I don't know. Maybe I don't fully understand. Yeah, maybe I don't fully understand how channels work, which makes sense because I don't use them. But suffice it, we're going to come back to these when we talk about luminosity masks, which we will in a bit. Okay, and then save to path. So when we have a selections, once they're gone, they don't really come back. You can control Z to make them come back, but they're really gone. However, if you turn them into a path, selection, cancel, selection to path, right? You come over here, now you've got this red line that you can go, and you can even export this. You can save it. You can load it and copy it and paste it into other pictures. This is a very useful skill to have. All right. So that's the selection menu. Views. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of these because really you're not going to use them all. It is important to know that you can, I think, yeah, if you hold shift and accidentally hit the middle mouse button, right, you can mess this up, and the only way to get back to it is exclamation mark, shift 1. Right, so if you accidentally turn yourself around, exclamation mark, shift 1. Right? Yeah, I don't like that mode. It doesn't really help. Okay, zooming. Okay, I use control and scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Okay? The zooming always goes towards the computer is trying to put the center focus of the zooming on your cursor. Okay? So what a nifty way of moving to the right. You can try to find this and then drag it over here. That's one way to do it. Or you can hold control, use shift out, you move your mouse over here and you shift in. Shift out over here, shift in. Shift out over here, shift in. Right? It's just something, I don't know if it's a proper way to do it or not. It's just a trick I learned to use to do with my mouse wheel. Fun fact, there are some, like my mouse, the MX Master 3S from Logitech, has a second scroll wheel, which you can assign to all sorts of different stuff. Alright, that's the selection menu. Oh, we're already in the view menu, okay. Color management, I'm going to say, so show selection. Okay, this is another common mistake that I used to make, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people make. Okay. I have this region selected, right? We can see if we go here to the, hang on. Tab, we want to see selection. Okay, now, Control T. You'll notice the white blob over here still indicates that I have a selection. But there's no marching ants. That's because Control T turns off the marching ants. So, if something happens, you can't see your marching ants, go over here, you say show selection, Control T. Okay? Guides, we're not going to talk about. Sample points, we're not going to talk about. Grid, we already talked about. Active path is not going to be relevant. Okay, so let's move on to image. Okay, so this menu is all the things that you would do that apply holistically to the entire image. Okay? For example, duplicate. Duplicate creates a copy of your... Hang on, did I turn off layers? Wow. Hang on, I'm going to put this over here. I gotta get rid of some stuff. It's going to give me a tumor. Okay, close. No, want brushes. Don't want patterns. Not going to talk about that. Fonts we'll talk about This is the other images we've loaded. You can close that one, doesn't really matter. This is gradients. We're going to talk about those in a bit. This is your undo history. This is your selection editor. So yeah, these are all good. Do I lock this? I'm going to lock it to the dock. Okay. So, image. Duplicate, we talked to it. Now notice these layers here. We duplicate this image, right? Oh, it does come with layers. Oh, I'm thinking flatten. Never mind. Sorry. Okay, image, duplicate. It's mode, RGB or grayscale, don't touch this. Precision, don't bother. Color management, don't bother. Transform. Okay. Anybody who's ever taken a picture with a cell phone knows that sometimes you can accidentally take them, or the camera doesn't always remember what orientation you took the picture in or intended to take the picture in. So these transformation tools right here are what you would use to correct this, right? If you need, so something I do find myself doing a lot is, let's just say we want to, okay, we're going to just turn this like this, okay? And we'll make the, okay, so let's just say I receive this like this, but I want to make the, make this square to the frame. So pick something straight that looks straight. This black line across the left's going to do it. Okay, sorry. Pardon me. Shift M is your measurement tool. It looks like the calipers from the Mason square. Pick from there, draw the line, click drag, okay, and notice, see that little symbol right there, the way there's a line and an arc from it that comes up from the horizontal? That means that this number down here at the bottom of the screen, 14.64, is measured coming up from the positive x-axis, right? This is relevant because if you start taking this down, notice it flips the other way, right? And 27 points, this is not 27.7 from the horizontal, this is 27.7 from the vertical. Right, so it's important to realize where that number is coming from. But when you do use it, this is where you get the reading. Unless you turn on the info window, in which case it comes up over here. And sometimes, hey, I'm doing good, Scruffy Eye, we'll call you. We're talking about GIMP tonight. Hope you if you're interested in catching some of the basics, then we've got I'm DVRing this. But feel free to stick around and ask questions. Okay, so at the moment, this thing is 14.59 degrees up from horizontal. So I'm going to gather all this, Control X, and paste it right back where I got it. R to bring up the rotate menu, which is also, yeah, this is for a subset, a layer, not an image, but the process applies the same. So we're going to say R. We say 14.59 and say rotating an H to anchor this thing, and lo and behold, we are back to having a horizontal weapon. Okay, now flip horizontally. This is another one. It's not really a huge problem, but sometimes you need it. Especially when you're working with weapons in barotrauma, because they all point to the right. Okay, images. Can fit canvas to layers. Okay, remember when we had that layer smaller than the rest of the image? And we went over and we right-clicked over here and we said layer to image size? This option is the opposite. Fit canvas to layers will crop the size of the image to the largest layer. Okay. Similarly, there is, if we pick an area, pick this one here, right? Just cut this down a little bit like that. And you go over here to image and you say crop to selection. The whole image is cropped to that selection, regardless of the size of the stuff on the other layers. So if you go in here, right? Hang on. All XV, scale. We scale this up like this, right? Now, we anchor this. Hang on. Why is that anchor layer? Okay. So clearly you can see that yellow line is way bigger than the image, right? But we're going to capture this here, and we say image crop to selection. Kind of crop because the image is already cropped. Oh, okay, hang on. What's it doing here? Crop to selection. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so all that picture was, now if we go back to this layer, that's lost. You can undo it, thankfully, with the Control Z. In which case, we can go back here and we can say fit canvas to layers, and now it's as big as it was. But the point is that when you crop something, or when you shrink a selection to match, or sorry, when you shrink something to match a layer, whenever this yellow line, if it's outside into the gray, and it disappears and comes back here, you've lost data. Okay? Sometimes if it didn't save, you can revert. That's why I went, ooh, revert back there. Sometimes you can do that, but it will go back all the way to your last save point. Fun facts. Okay. Crop to selection we talked about. Crop to content. Slice using guides, and I don't use guides. Zealous crop, I don't know what that means. Merge visible layers. Okay, we're going to say, boom. Oh, that's just the version. Hang on, we're going to turn on all of our layers here. And we say merge visible layers. And they all collapse into one. For some reason, there's another option here called flatten image, which does the same. Oh, it gets rid of the alpha channel. Okay, interesting. Never use the align tool. I'm sure it's something important. If it is, I'll come back and make another video later. Guides I don't use. Configuring grids we talked about. Okay, moving on to the layers menu. Again, super important to understand how to use layers. 99% of the things you're going to want to do with a layer, you can right click right here on one of these layers and you'll find it in here somewhere. If it's not, click on the layer and go over to this side because it's probably doable to that layer. Make sure it's visible before you do it. Okay? Man, we got somebody who can't make up their minds like a bloody cat. In and out and in and out and in and out. My cat does the same thing with the door. Drives me nuts. Alright, I need a 2-minute bathroom break, guys. I shall be right back. Please don't go anywhere. And I have... I thought I had a picture for this. Oh well. Okay, I shall return... Hang on, I'll even make you guys nice, big, fat right here. Be right back. All right. Where were we? Okay. I think we're done with the layers. Nope. Image. Yes, we're done with the image. Canvas size. You can scale the image. Okay. There's a difference between canvas size and scale image. Hopefully it's obvious, but just for the uninitiated. Adjusting the canvas size allows you to essentially add more canvas where there previously was none. Okay? You change the dimensions here. If you want to make it, for example, twice its size, you can switch this to %. Hang on, reset this here. Don't forget that you want to keep this chain here linked. You can say 200%, and that makes the whole thing double. Press the center button, moves the original image, and do not forget to go resize all layers down here. Otherwise, it's only going to resize the one layer that you're on. And I like to keep this on transparency, if that wasn't obvious. Okay, now the other thing, the similar operation, it's not quite the same, is you say scale image, and what's this, creating image, yeah, whatever. Notice our resolution now is jumped up to 4590 by 2028, but everything's twice its size. Okay, oh, hang on. Sorry, getting a phone call. Okay, so moving on, we have canvas, retarded cropped content, slice using guides. Yeah, we've talked about all these. Okay, moving on to the layer menu. This menu is for acting on individual layers, although there are some options, like for example stacking. So you can just grab layers and move them down underneath stuff manually, or if you're really hardcore and like using keyboard shortcuts, you can use these ones here. Okay. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Just responding to somebody. No. I'm done. Okay. Now. Okay. Going back to where we were. Layer menu. Okay. New layer. Okay, so obviously making a new layer, you can make a new layer from visible. So if you turn all these other ones out, oh, I didn't show you guys how to do that. Okay, we'll talk about that when we get through these menus. Okay, new layer group, duplicating layers, merge down. So merging down just does exactly what it sounds like. If you have two layers, like say this one, hang on, the blue one and the green one here, right? You can turn them off independently, but for some reason, if you want to combine them, you say merge down, and lo and behold, they're now one layer. It's magic. Okay, stacking. You can move up and down in terms of selection, or you can raise and lower the layer. I don't know if reverse layer order is a default, but it's either way, it's a handy thing to have. Masking. Okay, this is an important topic to understand because it is one of the most powerful tools that you will take the longest before giving up and trying to learn how to use it, okay? Now, I'm going to add a layer mask onto this layer with the blue stuff, okay? We're going to start with white. The masking layer is a grayscale where the value, so black being 0 and 1 being white, the value from 0 to 1 of each pixel determines its transparency. So this allows you to directly influence per pixel the pixels of each layer. So watch what I'm going to do here. So you can turn on show layer mask if you really need to see what you're doing. So if I do like this, hang on, smiley face, there we go. Right, and now we turn off show layer mask. We go back to here. Notice, you turn this one off, there's a smiley face missing from the blue. So even though we didn't actually delete anything from this color side, the alpha layer made those pixels transparent. When you're creating a layer mask, you can also start with black, which is full opacity, and wherever you draw white. Okay, so you'll notice when I'm drawing in here, right? Wherever the white overlaps with where there's information on these pixels, you get something that's visible, right? You can also add layer mask. You can use the layer's alpha channel already. So this layer has an alpha because we have transparent pixels. Wherever there's not blue, it's currently transparent. So you can say layered alpha layer. And now, when you look at it, it's the same thing, only it's black and white, right? Now, but what's interesting, though, is that this image is still transparent even without this the mask, okay? So we're going to undo that. Hang on. Okay. Now we're going to say add layer mask, but instead of using the layer's alpha channel, we're going to say transfer the layer's alpha channel, right? Look what happens to the layer. Oh, I did that to the blue one, I did to the green one. Add layer mask, transfer layer. Okay, now we're going to disable this layer for a minute, okay? Now this layer is filled with black wherever there is a transparent region, and it's depending on the mask to generate that transparency, right? Sometimes you'll run into situations where that's appropriate. It's rare. If you have a selection, right, let's take another potato out of this, and we create a layer mask, and we say selection. Notice our mask is now. Hang on, I'm going to increase this preview size so you can see what we're doing here. Enormous. Okay. Notice that this potato is the selection, and where it's present is currently occupied with data, right? So the mask allows you to do all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to talk about channels in a little bit because we're going to use luminosity masks. Oh, and grayscale copy of the layer, right? Notice you can kind of see if you really look carefully. Hang on, let's see if I can make this a little bit more obvious, right? Oh, hang on. Reset this one. No. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So it's in there. But because blue is so close to black, and black is transparent, this mask is making this layer almost entirely invisible. Okay? Alright, so that's masking, transparency. We talked about we can use a color to select things, but the big one is alpha to selection. This is one of the most popular things I've ever used. So what this allows you to do, I can say X, and now hang on. Now I've taken everything on that layer. So by just saying alpha to selection, I know I have grabbed every pixel of information on that layer so that I can cut it and do with it what I want. Okay? Okay, so, and then you have transform. So just like the image, you could flip the whole image, you can rotate the whole image, you can offset. I don't know what offset does, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Those similar tools are available for individual layers. Now, layer to image size, we talked about. Scaling layers is the same thing as scaling an image. Cropping to selection, cropping to content is exactly the same thing, and I have no idea what a liquid rescale is. It's a plugin I haven't learned how to use yet. Okay, colors. This is where it starts to get fun. Okay? Color temperature. So let's go back to the gun thing here. Hang on, turn these off, okay? If you've ever played with the color temperature on your phone, you've noticed that you can make things look more red or more blue. And this just gives you a couple. You can say, well, if I know I'm here and I know I'm here, I can scale it this way. Right, but color temperature allows you to make subtle changes to the tones but it's all at the same time. Similarly, hue chroma. Okay, we've talked about RGB, right? Red, green, blue. Okay, I want to talk for a second about HSV. Okay, so RGB is red, green, and blue. If they're all 0, you get black, right? 0, 0, 0. See this current? That's the currently active color, okay? If they're all 100%, or if you want to do 8-bit, you can go to 255. If they're all 100%, you get white, okay? You want halfway in between, go 50, 50, and 50, right? That's gray, okay? Now, there's another way to portray colors, okay? And this is HSV. So instead of red, green, and blue, all of the colors are in H. Hue is what H stands for. So see this bar here? I believe this is the top, so hue would be 360 up here, I think, and then hue is down here. Notice that it loops. When you go to the top of this bar, it's the same as the bottom of the bar. So any color that's a combination of red, green, and blue can be represented as a single hue number, okay? But then, if let's just say we want to get this red up here, okay? Notice that the S is saturation, okay? So how much of that color is present and how much of it's not. So if you were to say, go to blue here, okay? When your saturation is max, that's the bluiest blue you're going to get. I know it sounds silly to say it like that. And then as you dial down your saturation, notice this blue down here. Oh, hang on. Blue, and then dialing down saturation. It becomes more and more light blue. Okay, now it chooses that because the value is currently at 100. The value is kind of like the grayscale. Okay, so if you were to take this down to 50% here, okay, right, say call this 50, okay, and we take all the color out of it, saturation to 0, notice we're now at the same grade that we were with the 50-50-50. Doesn't matter what the hue is, if the value's at 50 and the saturation's at 0, you're going to get gray. If the saturation's at 0, all you're going to get is from white to black anyways. Alright? But that's how they represent color with HSV. Hue, saturation, and value. Okay? Okay, so colors. Hue chroma allows you to change. You can shift the hue of an image just like you could with color temperature. Is just a different kind of scale that you're going with. Chroma, I don't remember what chroma. I think chroma is... Actually, no. I'm not going to comment. I hate it when people talk about things they don't fully understand like they do. I don't know what chroma is. I know that this is related to saturation, but I'm not entirely sure how. So this is the lightness. Max lightness is white. Minimum lightness is black. And then you can pretty much shift it to any color you want. Let's see, turn this up to a sharper blue. And we can make this a darker blue. Like, you can do a lot of photo editing. Although you're not going to use that once I show you how Gmic works. Saturation is just, if you ever played with the saturation value on the remote. And notice, here's something that's interesting about GIMP. See the way that the scale goes from 1 and it goes all the way up to here to 2. Notice I'm grabbing the slider and I'm moving my mouse off the screen. If I keep going to the right, I'm dragging my mouse even though it goes all the way to 10, even though that bar makes it look like it only goes from 0 to 2. It keeps going way beyond that. Okay. Colors, exposure, shadows, highlights. So this allows you to... Okay. This divides the picture into 3 ranges. Right? This is where you define the limits of those ranges. So what highlights are here. We drag the white point way up, so that's going to be put down here. Look at that, not really playing nicely. So because it's a very relatively dark image. Brightness contrast is just what you do. If you've ever played with a monitor settings, it's the same thing here. However, you can go to levels. And this is a histogram of all the brightnesses, all the values of all the pixels. This is the distribution of them, right? And what you can do, if you're saying, okay, this gray here, this should be black. It's not as dark as I'd like it. You can drag this little slider here. Come on. Right? And notice that as I drag it up, it becomes... There's far more pixels that are black. And it's scaling the whole thing accordingly, right? I can even drag this one here and make it drag the white point here too, right? And if you want to change how it's scaled, right, you can drag this middle one in here too. So, but however, the easiest way to do this is to click this button here and say, okay, this is what's supposed to be black. This is supposed to be... Why didn't that stay? That's black. Why didn't that stay? Interesting. Well, oh, can we clamp this? Interesting. I don't know why it's not staying. Oh well. We're going to move on for now. Curves. This is a lot of fun. This one is a big one because you can do a lot of like exaggerating detail and that sort of thing with this curve, okay? So, this x-axis is the current value of all the pixels, okay? And this is the when you're done with it, okay? So if you want to take everything that's below the halfway mark and make it just black, what you could do is just take this freehand, you put a spot there. Oh wait, no, you don't want freehand, you want smooth. Hang on. We just don't want... Okay, so yeah, we drag this down here, and then we drag all of these ones down, okay? And what we've done is any pixel that's below the halfway point is now black, as you can see, right? So these, you can shift these, and what's fun is that you can also do this for the individual colors, right? You can make the blue more intense or less intense, right? You can do all that sort of stuff. All right, moving on. Curves, invert, exactly what it sounds like. I don't know how value invert works, but I'm guessing it just inverts the value and not the hue. Oh, okay. Colors, auto. There's some fun stuff in here. Color enhance. If you keep doing that a bunch of times, might actually be helpful. I don't... Oops. Okay. Auto white balance is a good one. If you have a white reference somewhere on the page, stretch contrast is another good one. Hang on, preview. I don't know why this isn't giving me... Well, anyways, long story short, these are all options that are minimal involvement from the user's part. I don't really like them. Decompose, saturate. Okay, here we go. Desaturate. This is a very important one. I'll show you why. Hang on a second. Let me, just looking for something online that I can use as a reference here. Oh, perfect. Benchy. All right. I don't know if anybody here has ever done, some 3D printing, but this is a Benchy. Oh, okay. They call it Benchy because it's used for benchmarking 3D printers, but it's a fun little thing. Okay, watch this. I want to cut this out. Okay, what normally that would mean, I either have to go in here with an eraser. Hang on, turn this alpha channel on. I have to come into here with an eraser. Where's my eraser? Bring this up to here. Where's my... Hang on. I need to turn these icons down. They're going to give me a tumor. Appearance. Hang on. Where's my icons? Icons. Okay, we're going to turn these down to here. We'll turn them down to medium so you guys can still probably see what I'm doing with them. Okay. We have to take these down to like 5 or 10 or something. We have to erase in here and erase up in here. If we want, we can erase down here. And look, I'm actually accidentally taking these parts out, right? Or we do it this way, the sneaky way. Okay? Watch this. 2 duplicates of this layer. Okay? Double copies. The first one, you're going to invert. Where's the color? Invert. Okay? And then up here, you can change the opacity of each layer. Okay, you can make how opaque it is. We're going to take this to precisely 50%, not 560, 50%. Okay, then we're going to merge it down with the layer below it, and we're going to desaturate it with the desaturate function. Okay, then we go into those curves that we just looked at. Okay, draw this like an S curve of some kind, although we got to find the middle. There you go. This is where most of the data lies, is that middle right there. Okay, and we're going to make a little S around that middle. Okay, we go here to the colors, brightness, contrast. We jack our contrast up. Oh, not quite. We want to make sure that this is darker. All right, now watch this. Okay, now I can use my selection to the fuzzy select. All right, we pick these areas. And look at that, follows it nicely. Now, if there was, this is super easy because there's a white background, which means it would have been easy to pick it out anyways by itself. But if there's hair, if there's leaves in the background, or if there's anything you can use that makes a sharp color contrast, desaturating the superimposed 50% of the inverted colors will give you a perfect mask of the object every time. All right, fun facts. All right, desaturate mapping. We talked about tone mapping. We're going to do with GMic. I don't think we're going to do with tone mapping here. Info, this is just things you can get, like if you want to get a histogram of the colors. Say you look at red, this is the distribution of the red layer, although I'm looking at, anyways. Okay, colors, what's down here? Info threshold. Oh, colorizing. Okay. Colorizing is also fun because you can take something and you can apply any color that you want to it, right? But you have to be careful because, not the saturation reset. What is saturation 0? Lightness can come down, but notice it's also doing the background. This one does everything. Every pixel gets tinted in the direction you call it with colorize. Posterizing is you say, okay, I want maximum 2 colors in this picture. It will do its best to break all of the colors down to 2. If you say 3 or 4 or 5, notice like you go to 4 here, you can see 1, 2, 3, and 4 colors, right? So the more colors you put in, the more closely you can then represent the actual image itself, but it's useful for some artistic effects. All right, well, we're getting there, folks. Tools. So these are all tools over here. Okay, this is just the menu access instead of the icons. Hopefully, these are mostly self-explanatory. Okay, so we got the rectangle select. Select a rectangle. If you want, you can put rounded corners on it. You can make them big rounded corners. You can make them little tiny rounded corners. Expand from center is good when you're trying to get something and you know exactly where the middle is. This option here, you can do fixed size, fixed aspect ratio. So if we say 2 to 1, right? 2 to 1. The next time you touch this, it's going to snap into a rectangle that's always 2 to 1, twice as long as it is high, right? If you're trying to get something that's like, say, 640 by 480 ratio. Oh, hang on. We don't want 640:480. That's just an aspect ratio, right? So this is the same thing, which is incidentally, I believe, the same as 16 by 9. Maybe. No, 4 by 6. Anyways. Over here, you can also, if you want to manually adjust the position of these rectangles, sometimes that's useful. This important thing to note is that this position is measured from the left, from this bar, and from the top. So if you increase this number, it goes down. Right? So this is always measured from the top left. And this is handy for things like barotrauma because it uses the same convention in the code. Okay? Similarly, you can go this way or you can go this way. If you put highlight on, it just shows you, it slightly tints the image down. You say highlight opacity, you can make this, there you go, completely opaque, or it makes it easier to identify what you're actually selecting, but not always helpful. Okay, colors, so tools, selection. Ellipse. An ellipse is just, it's a circle or an oval. Right now, this one's fixed at 1 to 1. You can take that off and then you can draw all kinds of weird things, right? Again, the position, again, the highlights. Tools, selection, free select. Okay, free select is the lasso. You just draw a line about whatever you want to do. Now, if you are clicking individual points, right, what you can do is hit backspace. If you mess up a point, you can go back and move it. And even if you connect those ones, right, you can still move them. You can still move these points, right, until you hit enter. Once you hit enter, it's committed. Okay. Selection. We got the fuzzy select, foreground select. I'm not entirely certain how to use. I want to practice with that before I give you guys any form of instruction on how to use it. Fuzzy select, color select, and intelligent scissors I've never used before. Okay, paint tools. Buckets. Buckets are easy. They just take whatever region you've got and they fill as much of it as they can. Fill type, foreground color fill. So these are your two. This is your foreground, this is your background. Now, This is fill hole selection or fill similar colors. I usually leave it on fill hole selection, and then when you push shift, it goes to fill similar colors, and when you hold shift, it says fill hole selection. Lardy, you want to make sure I'm making sense here? Just give me a nod or a grunt or some sort of string of alphabetical characters. Let me know I'm still making sense and not boring the shit out of everybody. Moving on, I will move on in the meantime. Uh-oh. Okay, gradients. Ooh, gradients are fun. Okay. So, number one, you have all these natural gradients to choose from, okay? Usually you want foreground to background RGB or foreground to transparent. If you don't like which one's a foreground, you can just flip it over there with these arrows. But we're going to go foreground to background RGB. Actually, hang on. You know what we're going to do? We're going to duplicate this layer. We're going to color select all this white, grow it by 1 pixel, and delete it. Okay? Because now, what we can do is put our gradient behind the boat. Okay? So if you go with a linear, see the way it says shape linear? Right? And we've got black to white. Wherever this X is where the foreground stops. And whenever this X is where it stops changing, and it's 100% for the background, right? The closer you put these together, the less gradual the gradient becomes. If you change this to bilinear, however, you'll notice that there's a middle section. Right, but the more observant of you may have realized that whenever I'm hovering over this line, there's a dot. And you can use that dot to change what's called the dithering, I believe, which is the rate at which it changes from one color to another. Okay? But we can also go radial. I like radial because radial... Oops. Radial is good for highlighting stuff. Let's flip these around. Right? It's like you got the Jesus boat here. It's got the halo over its head. Right? And you can play with the dithering. Why did it do that? Oh, we don't want instant mode off. Right? Because now you can play with this if you want. And then it doesn't stay until you hit enter. Right? Okay. Square, conical, those are shaped. We're going to leave those alone for now. Okay, we'll leave it radial. Repeat is just if you want the pattern to repeat itself, you can turn that one on. Now, modify active gradient. We're going to go over here. And I had one down here for titanium, but I think it's been moved. So let's just go here to skyline. Okay, now if I go skyline... Notice it's got this really weird coloring pattern here. If I don't like that, if I want to change that, right, I can go up here to gradient, and then I click this button, I can edit it, right? And now I can move these transition points. I can change the color on one side of the scale or the other. Right's endpoint color. Let's make this a green. Right, and we change this and we say blending colors curved. Oh, hang on. There's a way to do that one. Split segment uniformly, split. Okay. Now, let's make this one here. Left point color. Load left color from that one. Okay. So now we have this one over here that we can drag around. We have ones over here we can drag around. Like this, the gradients are infinitely adjustable. You can put 16 different color gradients in here, or you can just go with 2. It's up to you. But the gradient tool is an easy way to add some depth and some really good 3D effect to your stuff. All right, pencil. This is N on your keyboard. Okay. Let's go down here, say new layer here. Now I want you to see what the difference is between a paintbrush, Okay. That's paintbrush at 100% hardness. Hang on. Paintbrush at 50% hardness. And paintbrush at 25% hardness. Okay, that's paintbrush. Now, pencil. Okay, pencil from point A to point B. 050. Pencil from point B to point C. Hopefully it's obvious what's going on here right about now. And 25%, that's point A to point B, right? So pencils always fill in every pixel that they touch. 100% no fading, no anti-aliasing. This is anti-aliasing. That soft little edge on this line is called anti-aliasing or feathering, right? When you use a pencil, don't have that. Homie, don't play that. All right. Tools, painting, pencils, paintbrush. We talked about the paintbrush. What we didn't talk about is brushes. So you get a small number of brushes that you can start with. Hang on here. I'm going to put these back. Actually, I'm going to put these down here. Okay, so I'm going to turn this grouping off. Do I have fun? I have splatters, don't I? Okay. I don't have any... right, I just installed Linux on this a couple weeks ago, so I don't have any brushes installed yet. But if I did, I could make patterns like this. What you can do in this case, you can make it just a little bit darker. And... then, when you get to the point that you're here, alpha selection, flip invert, right, you can start getting these weird effects on the boat. But I have been listening to music while playing a first-person shooter zombies game. I guess thank you for the viewer. What's the point? But I'm glad I'm entertaining you from the background, I guess. Okay, so paint tools, we got paintbrush erasers is self-explanatory. Airbrush is like a really weak sauce paintbrush. So I'll put this on 75%. We can turn this up to like 50, and you'll see if I draw with the paintbrush, it's pretty thick, but if I draw with the airbrush, it's just as thick but not nearly as heavy. Alright, tools. Paint tools, or airbrush, ink, clone. Oh, clone. Clone's a good one. Okay. So let's just say let's just say I want to make this porthole disappear. Right? Take this down to 25. Now, notice I have a stamp, but it has a circle with a cross through it, right? So I'm going to touch that here, and now I hit control and I leave a circle behind. And now what's going to happen is that the circle that I draw with, it has to be in here. The circle that I draw with, why is that not working? Spacing, hardness, force. There we go, okay. It copies whatever's under one brush to the other. Right, and now it's not perfect, but that's an easy way to get rid of the boat, or get rid of the porthole, right? Okay, paint, we talked about cloning, healing, smudging. I'm not going to talk about dodging and burning, because you can do that with an airbrush. But the smudge one is interesting because in the event of an emergency, you can just smudge your way. Right? It just kind of wipes pixels around. You'll notice that when I go by these transparent edges, it kind of brings some transparency into the boat. Right? Yeah, smudging is an easy way to make the stuff that looks kind of visually harsh. It can make them much more easier to look at. Okay, tools, paint, smudge, burn. We're not going to talk about heal. Okay. Man, we just passed 2 hours, guys. What do you think? Do I stop here and we do another session, or do you want me to keep going? Only 2 viewers, so I'll let you battle it out between the two of you. My call. Okay, let's I want to get to some filters and some plugins, and we're almost there. So we're just gonna crash through these transform tools. I'll give you the most important ones. A move. Everybody knows how move works, right? You just hit the M button, you grab it, it moves around, right? What's important to know is that when you're done, look at where the layer went. You didn't just move the object; you moved the whole goddamn layer, right? So unless you cuts it now, it's a different story. If I cut out, let's just say, cut this thing out, and I want to move it, right? Why isn't the layer moving with it? It's because you may recall this is on a floating layer, right? When you paste something back in, it becomes temporary on a floating layer. You can delete the floating layer and nothing happens, or you can anchor it and then it comes into the picture. Oh. Cropping, hopefully everybody knows what cropping does. Yeah, I know, I'm yawning a little bit. Give me a break. Rotating shouldn't be straightforward. Scaling. Shearing's kind of cool. You can shear one direction, like horizontally, or you can shear vertically. If you're going to do any of most of these transformations, it makes more sense to me to use the unified transform. Because the unified transform, you can change perspective, you can change the shearing with these white diamonds, right? You can change the rotation if you go outside of the squares. You can also change the perspective. You can change all kinds of stuff. And the only one that's really, the only one of these that's really as flexible as that one is the warp transform. Now, hang on. Cage transform is the word I'm looking for. This one. So the way this one works is you just draw some spots around the thing that you want to adjust. And then you can pull on these. And wherever you pull them, push this one in here a little bit. Pull this one out this way. Push this one in this way. Pull this one way over this way, and we'll push this one in this way. See, if you get a little too crazy, it starts hang on. Alright. And then we'll go down here. Right? So now our boat is kind of jacked up where it was straight before, right? Relatively straightforward tool to use. And last but not least, we got the flip. I don't want to use handle or warp. They're not really... Oh, 3D transform is kind of cool because you can take it and flip it around and manipulate it. This is cool if you want to stick it onto a plane like a TV in a picture. You can line it up with the TV like this and you can make it look like they're looking at whatever you want it to. And then last but not least is the perspective tool. This is similar to the one we just looked at, but it's good for matching rectangles to other rectangles. Sorry, that was a yawn. All right. Pathing. Arguably the most important tool because paths you can go back and adjust. Paths you can use more than once. So paths are, in GIMP, they're either polygonal, I guess is the word. So when you have this one here, polygonal checked, right, they come one right after the other and it's always a straight line between them. And then when you want to hook it up to the first one to make a closed loop, you hold the control button, right? And notice when I go over this, all of these are going to have both ends taken, right? Because I've been using them as part of a chain. But this one here has an end that you can link to, so when you get that, hang on. Do you see my mouse? Do you see the way it turns from the circle with the slash through it into the 2 rings? Can you see that? I know it's real tiny, like, I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Hang on a sec. 1 second, guys. I'm just going to check online. Bigger cursor size. Oh, it's a DPI thing. Okay. Alright, no big deal. Okay, tired boy. You or me? I think he's got a point, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we're going to stop here. We just about finished tools. I write that down somewhere. But filters is where it starts to get really exciting, because there's some stuff like, remember when I had to remove that that porthole? Hang on. Go on. Right, there's a tool, I think I've got it installed right now, called Resynthesizer. Yeah, Resynthesizer, which you can just go like this, and you watch, it's going to jack this one right up instead of helping. We say filters, enhance, heal selection. Look at that, done. Right, you want to get rid of this box over here. Oh. And keep repeating the process until you get the results you want. Like that. And it's really easy, and it's really good for removing watermarks. I'm sorry. Improving watermarks. But we'll get to that next time. Guys, I hope you found this informational. I hope you liked my little intro. I worked hard on that one. If not, if you guys have questions, if you have something you want me to address next time we talk about GIMP or barotrauma or whatever, next time you see a live stream, if you have questions you want to ask it now, and I'll make sure I got the answers for you by the time you see me next time. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, mash that tiny bell so you'll get a notification the next time you get another knowledge bomb from the Gaming Nerd. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening. Gaming Nerd out.